Question today is for the Premier. On March 24th, the MPP from Northumberland Quinte West will be in Thedford in the municipality of Lambton Shores in my riding for a public meeting about the government's plan to close more rural schools. Curiously, the invitation sent by the Issues Management team at the Ministry of Education specifies that, and I quote, photography and video recording does not occur once the engagement session begins, unquote. Speaker, Heather Wright, publisher of the Petrolia Independent, calls it a shameful excuse to limit press freedom and a trampling over the very basic freedoms of the press. Speaker, the Premier's plans to fast-track the closure of more rural schools is not only an important issue in my riding of Lambton, Kent, Middlesex, but all across the province. Will the Premier direct the Ministry of Education to lift the media blackout on this so-called public meeting, or will the government continue to close more rural schools under a veil of secrecy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I know the Minister of Education is going to want to speak to the supplementary. But, Mr. Speaker, over my years as a parent and as a member of a school council, Mr. Speaker, and as a school trustee and as a community member, Mr. Speaker, I've been to more education consultations than I can count, Mr. Speaker. And what I know is that at those meetings, there are people who want to be on the public record and who want to speak out, and then there are people who want to talk about an issue but actually don't want it to become a public discussion. And what we need at a meeting like the one that's happening around the rural schools and community schools is we need everybody to feel free to speak, Mr. Speaker. And of course, the Minister of Education will always speak to the media. There will always be opportunities for the media to know what the discussion is about. But, Mr. Speaker, people need to be able to speak freely.
Supplementary, the member from Sarnia-Lambton.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And back to the Premier. In the email exchange between the spokesperson for the Ministry of Education, Heather Wright, of the Petrolia Independent, the minister's spokesperson spins the need for media blackout by citing, quote, consent concerns of the participants, end of quote. But how does the ministry already know there are consent concerns at a public meeting that's still a week away? So far, the only confirmed attendee is the member for Northumberland Quinte West. Is it possible that your own government is concerned about there being a video recording of this meeting? Premier, there are already many concerns that this listening tour is much ado about nothing. Premier, journalists have an important role to play in our democracy. Will you lift this blackout today so Ms. Wright and other journalists can do their job as professional journalists?
Thank you.
Education.
Minister of Education.
Thank you, Speaker. I want to thank the members for the question. It's a great opportunity to talk about these engagements and the fact that we're going into 10 communities across rural and northern Ontario to talk about how we improve education for students. And that's what we're there to do, Mr. Speaker. My colleagues that have been doing these consultations along with me, we've engaged with the media. Media have attended as the sessions were beginning, and there's a process for the media to be involved in these consultations, Mr. Speaker. And as the Premier has already said, we want to have a really robust conversation with parents, with students, with school boards, with municipalities, with everyone who is engaged in this very important dialogue around how we can improve our schools in rural and northern communities, and we want to ensure that we create the space for them to do that, and we have a process for connecting with the media that is quite open and transparent, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. New question, the member from Parkdale High Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.